Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudi. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, Prabhu.
Now we can.
Yeah,
Yes, Prabhuji,
yeah.
we can.
My internet is very choppy today. I don't know
Oh,
what.
oh.
Suddenly some problems. Okay. Anyway. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Virjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganavita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते सप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम श्रीपादाय कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते रघुनाथ स्वामी नाम पादाय कृष्ण परिष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष तम करोति वाचालं परमं मंगेति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरं यों। Hare Krishna. So today we are discussing the 17th chapter of the 9th canto. Earlier when we were discussing the pastimes, we came to the point of discussing, after we discussed Parshuram, we discussed about the pastimes of Pururava. And today's chapter is entitled The Descendants of Pururava, or more specifically, the descendants of the various sons of Pururava. Interestingly, this particular chapter is very short. How short? Shorter than the shortest Bhagavad Gita chapter. What is the shortest Bhagavad Gita chapter? Anyone knows how many verses?
Chapter 12.
Yes, how many verses?
Also maybe 20 or 22.
Yeah. So the shortest is 20 Bhagavad Gita. So this particular chapter is only 17 verses. So very interesting. Very short chapter. So this is mainly a genealogical description of Pururava's sons' descendants. So we will complete the chapter very soon. We can open up then for question answers and any other questions or discussions that you may want to have. One second. Okay. So it is said Pururava had 5 sons. So who are those 5 sons? Ayu, And that Ayu himself had very powerful sons by the name of Nahusha, Kshatravriddha, Raji, Rabha, and Anena. Okay, so Pururava had his eldest son Ayu, and the eldest son had 5 sons. So this chapter discusses the descendants of the 5 sons of Ayu, who's the son of Pururava. And out of the 5 sons, whose names we just took, the descendants of 4 sons are discussed in this chapter. Who are the 5 sons? Nahusha, Kshatravriddha, Raji, Rabha, and Anena. 4 of them are discussed. Nahusha, his descendants are not discussed in this chapter because that's a very broad topic. The others is a very 17 verse summary. So for those who are more prominent characters, a lot more description is given. So Nahusha and Nahusha's descendants, in which line Yayati comes, who's a very, very interesting personality and a lot of instructive pastimes connected to Maharaj Yayati, which we'll be discussing in the next chapter. But this chapter is not focused on Nahusha and Yayati. This chapter is focused on the other 4 sons of Ayu. So let me quickly go through what the chapter has covered, and then we will discuss a little bit. So this chapter will sound very academic, but that's what it is. So bear with me. So first one is Kshatravriddha. Now Kshatravriddha was a very wonderful Kshatriya. In his dynasty came his son Suhotra. His son Suhotra had 3 sons, Kashya, Kusha, and Grista mother. From Grista mother, there was a son by the name of Shunaka. From Shunaka, this Shunaka, the Bhagavatam says, became a very, very great saint. Or rather, his son Shaunaka became a very, very great saint. And he was very, very conversant with the Rig Veda. From another of the sons, Kashya, there was a son whose name is Kashi, and Kashi's son was Rashtra, and Rashtra's son was Dirghatama. This Dirghatama had a son whose name was Dhanvantari. So this Dhanvantari was the inaugurator of medical science and an incarnation of Lord Vasudeva, a Shaktavesh incarnation. The Bhagavatam says anyone who even remembers the name of Dhanvantari can be released from all disease. Dhanvantari Bhagavan ki jai. So some of you may be wondering, Prabhu, how come Dhanvantari was born as the son of Dirghatama? You remember when you discussed the Samudra Manthan, Dhanvantari came out from the milk ocean. So what happened? So the explanation is, that was Dhanvantari's appearance in the Chakshusha Manvantara. And this is a different Dhanvantari who appeared in the current Vaivasvat Manvantara. So in different Manvantaras, the Devatas appear in different ways. The Devatas change, the Saptarishis change, Manu changes, Manu Putras change. Correct? We discussed the 6 categories of administrators in a Manvantara. The Devatas change. So Dhanvantari is one of the personalities amongst the various Devatas. He also changes every Manvantara. In the Chakshusha Manvantara, he appeared out of the Samudra Manthan. That time also he is an incarnation of the Lord, empowered incarnation. And in our Manvantara also, in our Manvantara, he has not appeared from the milk ocean. In our Manvantara, he has appeared as the son of Dirghatama in the line of Pururava. So Dhanvantari had a son whose name is Ketuman, whose son is Bhimaratha, whose son is Divodasha, and Divodasha's son is Dyuman. Dyuman was also known as by various other names such as Satrujit, Vatsa, Ritadwaja, Kulavayashva. Now these various names are given because of the various qualities and activities that he has performed. They are not elaborated here, but probably mentioned in other Puranas. Dyuman's son was Alarka and many others. Alarka was a prominent king, and that's why the Bhagavatam mentioned that he ruled over the earth for 66,000 years. Sukadeva Goswami mentions this to Parikshit Maharaj. No other man has reigned over the earth for as long as a young man. So this is one notable characteristic of Alarka. Alarka's son was Santati, whose son is Sunitha. Sunitha's son was Niketana. Niketan's son is Dharmaketu. Dharmaketu's son is Satyaketu. From Satyaketu came a son who is known as Drishtaketu. Drishtaketu gave birth to Sukumar, who was also the emperor of the entire world. From Sukumar came a son called Vitihotra, and who's also known as Bharga, and from Bharga came Bharga Bhumi. So all these kings, they were all descendants of Kashi, who's one of the descendants of Pururava. Then the son of Rabha, his name is Rabhasa. Rabha is one of the other sons of Ayu amongst the 5 sons. From Rabhasa comes Gambhira, from Gambhira came Akriya, from Akriya came Brahmavit, and so on. That is one line. Then from another son whose name is Anena. Anena had a son known as Shuddha. His son was Suchi. From Suchi came Dharmasarthi. And Dharmasarthi was also known as Chitrakrit. And from Chitrakrit was another son known as Shantaraj. This Shantaraj was a very, very elevated soul. He said he was a self-realized soul. He was always busy performing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices. In fact, he was so busy performing sacrifices, he remained a brahmachari, he never got married, he never had any sons. Then the 5th son, whose name is Raji, he had 500 sons who were all very, very powerful Kshatriyas. So, Raji was so powerful with his 500 sons that the Devatas once requested Raji to help them fight the demons. So Raji was so powerful, he killed all the demons and he recaptured the heavenly worlds which had been conquered by the Asuras. But Indra, and he offered the kingdom back to Indra, but Indra was so afraid of the demons, of the Asuras, such as Prahlad. Prahlad is also very, very powerful. Asuranam Prahladasmi, Krishna says, of all the Asuras I am Prahlad. That even though the kingdom was given back to Indra, Indra said, no, you only remain the king. I don't want to deal with these Asuras anymore. I have had too much. You remain, I will remain in the background. So if they attack, in brackets, if they attack, they'll attack you. They will not bother you. And he remained subservient to Raji. In due course, so Raji agreed and he continued to rule the heavenly planets. In due course, Raji passed away. After Raji passed away, his 500 sons took over the position and opulence of Indra. Indra was actually expecting after Raji dies that the kingdom will come back to him because actually it is Indra's kingdom. But Raji's son were thinking, this is my father's property. It is coming in, it is inherited by us. So they were not willing to give the kingdom back to Indra. But they told Indra, okay, as a concession, what we can do is we cannot give you back your Indrapad, but we can give you your share in the sacrifices, so you can also have some enjoyment. Like try to settle with him at a cheap price and keeping the Indrapad for themselves. So Indra was very, very unhappy. So Indra went and discussed this matter with Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the Devatas. And Indra is very expert in trickery. So with the help of Brihastas, they performed certain Vedic sacrifices, certain rituals, by which it caused the sons of Raji to make some mistake, some compromise in moral principles. And when they became compromised in their dharmic way of life, their power and opulence decreased, and immediately Indra, because of their degradation, was easily able to overpower and kill them. He killed all 500 of the sons of Raji. Imagine. These are the ones who had fought and recovered the kingdom. But eventually, when he wanted it back, he killed all of them. Very interesting episode. Then the fifth son was Kusha. The other son is Kusha, who is the grandson of Shatravruddha. From him, there was a son by the name of Prati. From Prati, there was Sanjay. Sanjay's son was Jay. Jay's son is Krita. From Krita comes Aryabala. Aryabala gave birth to Sahadev, gave birth to Hina. Hina had a son, Jayasena, whose son was Sankriti. And Sankriti was very, very powerful and was gave birth to a son named as Jaya, who was also extremely powerful. So these are all the members of the dynasty of Shatra. So this is where the chapter ends. This is all that is there in this particular chapter. So essentially, it describes Pururava, whose eldest son Ayu had 5 sons, Nahusha, whose descendants are discussed in the next chapter, then Shatravruddha, Raji, Rabha, and Anena. So the descendants of each of them have been discussed. Okay, so that's about it for this chapter. So we can take 5-10 minutes of any question answers, and you can, if you want, ask questions on topics which are not necessarily related to this chapter. Have any questions, we can take for a few minutes. Otherwise, we can end early for today. Yeah, Tarun Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. I have a question not in the context of the chapter, but another. Like, may I ask now? Or?
Yeah. Yes. You can ask any question on any topic related to Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Prabhuji, one question I have, and when we read Bhagavatam, many times it comes when the king is going to forest at the later age of his life for doing tapasya, and because there is a loneliness there and they can pay attention and they control senses and attain the Supreme Lord. But in the contrary, if we see if there is a loneliness, senses will demand more because you are accustomed to use your senses for to feed it. So it will delay the liberation, right? It will not give you the means faster pace of liberation. That's means listen, if we see the Dhritarashtra and many other kings which we just read about it. So I just wonder means they can just do the same thing at home itself.
The thing about not remaining at home is that if one remains at home, one's mind will be absorbed in home affairs. Right? One will become involved, family, one will become involved with children's lives, one will become involved in the grandchildren's life, one will remain busy in various other things. And even though one may have an intention to purify oneself, one may not be able to do it because of a lot of distraction. So that is the thought process. The thought process is how to withdraw from active materialistic life and exclusively focus on austerity and spiritual cultivation. So of course, in olden times, it also depends on what is the level of advancement. even when one went to the forest, it did not always mean, going to the forest did not always mean that they were just staying alone under one tree. So usually for Vanaprastha, in most cases, the husband wife both go to the forest. And they both practice austerity. So one thing is, of course, if one is away from city life, if one is in a very natural setting, then one thing is, of course, in those days there was no smartphone also, and so there was no connectivity. So one was very undisturbed by things happening in this world. One could focus. There's no stimulus for distraction. First thing is, in the forest, there are no restaurants or palatable food. You're just eating fruits, just boiling and eating some simple foods. So simple food, no stimulation. So all these things help to not become distracted. So food and continuous bombardment to the senses, sound, form, touch, which is surrounding us everywhere. In Kali Yuga, it is so difficult. Because continuously there is bombardment. Everyone is trying to, all advertisements, everything, everywhere you see, enjoy in various ways. Eat me, drink me, wear me, buy me, whatever. Messages are going on. So that was the good part, that going into a secluded environment, whether that secluded environment is literally in a forest or it is an ashram on the outskirts of the town, didn't really matter. Because much of the land was anyway forest. So there were small towns and there would be forests in the middle. So they would go somewhere, not that they would necessarily go deep. Those who were very advanced would go deep in the Himalayas and in the caves and meditate there. That was not something that everyone could do. But again, from a Krishna conscious perspective, there is a very great emphasis that just isolation is not going to help. Because even if you isolate yourself from all stimulus, you still have your worst enemy with you. What is it? What is more
Envy.
worse? What is more
Mana.
worse than a smartphone?
Yes.
Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandhana moksha. Correct? Krishna says, right? The mind is the cause of liberation and also of bondage.
Yeah.
A controlled mind is the cause of liberation, and uncontrolled mind is the cause of bondage.
Oh.
So Krishna also says mind is the greatest friend and also mind can be the greatest enemy. So yes, while externally stimulus may not be there for sense enjoyment, an idle mind, like what you rightly said, can also be, one can contemplate, even though one is not enjoying, one can still go, oh, that time was so good, oh, I would do this, I would eat this, and I would
Yes.
see
Yes.
this, and I would enjoy this. Dhyayato vishan pumsa sangaste shubhajayate sangat sanjayate kama kama prolobhijayate dhoti sammoha sammoha vibrama smriti bhramshad buddhinasho buddhinashad vinashyati. So this whole progression of decline, beginning with contemplation of sense objects. So that risk is there, that risk is real. And that is why even when, unless one is very advanced, one doesn't go into isolation. So even if one withdraws from active social life, one must keep one's mind busy. And to keep one's mind busy and to keep oneself in check. In our line, our acharyas especially say that one should always remain in the association of saintly souls. Even if one withdraws from active material life, Prabhupada never encouraged being alone and being reclusive to any of his followers. Because that's not something, unless we are already liberated and experiencing a very higher experience. Even those who are experiencing a higher experience, they can also get into a dangerous situation, like what in Bhagavatam the story of Bharat Maharaj is mentioned. So that's a good example. Prabhupada says that because he did not have association of devotees, even as he was making a mistake, there was nobody to correct him. So that's why in our line, association of devotees is very, very important. So even if one becomes reclusive, one never gives up the association of devotees. One should always keep himself in the association of sadhus, maybe renowned sadhus. That's okay. So that is very, very important. So for us as grihasthas, Prabhupada never expected us to go to the forest, literally. But what is expected is the spirit. What is the spirit? At one point, we should withdraw ourselves from active material pursuits, money, family, etc., and devote our life exclusively to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and whatever is needed for that, if it is needed that we go and stay in a separate house, different from our children and grandchildren, and just be there in a small place and do bhajan, or we go and stay in an ISKCON temple and render seva there, or we go and stay in the Holy Dham. Of course, everything done with the blessings of Guru and the senior Vaishnavas, with their guidance and blessings. And then we can focus nicely on our service, because an idle mind is also devil's workshop. So remain in association, remain busy in service. Kali Yuga, this is very, very important. Nobody should think themselves so advanced that they can be alone. Prabhupada says anyone who thinks they can be Krishna conscious alone, they are insane. They are mad people. It is impossible. So let us not try to be smarter than the acharyas. So never give up association. Always remain in association. So yes, this was possible and practical to some extent for those. See, you must understand, these individuals who take Vanaprastha, they were not leading city lives like what we have led. We have been exposed to unlimited contamination all our life. Those people lived dharmic varnashram lives all their life, doing samskaras, doing pujas, doing yajna, following their prescribed duties, in an environment hundreds or thousands of years ago where there was not the kind of sin and sense enjoyment that we find today. Today is 100x. So it was not that bad. See, today, if you want to contemplate on sense enjoyment, there are a million things you can contemplate, because there are a million impressions which are in our mind based on our surroundings. Those days, no movies, no songs, no billboards. I mean, what? No, not even restaurants the way we have today to eat food. Not that there are millions of consumer products, nor are there. The options itself were so small and limited that distractions were still there. People who wanted to get attached can get attached to anything. But it wasn't as hard as what it is now. So anyway, for us, we don't have to worry. Our focus is clear. For us, Vanaprastha means Vana, focused in Krishna. We want to enter Vrindavan. May not be necessarily physically. The Vana is Vrindavan. It doesn't necessarily mean always to go to the Dham. That is one thing that's nice for those who can do it. The blessings of Guru. The other way is to mentally absorb oneself in the sense that one is fully dedicated to service of. So that should be all of our aspiration. That is important. Does it answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
So basically, yes, it is very dangerous to keep the mind idle. It is very dangerous to remain alone. It is not at all encouraged.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Right. So that is why one of the things that the Acharya says, the mind is so fickle and untrustworthy. If you are not directly busy in a service, or we are actively doing something or thinking, all other time one should simply fill by chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Of course, even as one is doing, one should chant if possible. Sometimes it may not always be possible. One is studying, one is doing one's work at office. It's not always possible to chant. But any other time in between. But the basic point is, don't leave your mind on your own. the human mind is such, it will always find a reason to be miserable, or it will always find something to go and clasp itself to, find some enjoyment.
Oh,
Immediately engage the mind in the holy name. Yeah.
Prabhuji, one thing comes here actually in general. One is Nam Jap and is Mantra Jap. So it is not possible all time that we are doing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So can we just keep on chanting Hare Krishna all the time? It's not full mantra in case we are unable to.
What is the
So
difficulty of? No, you can chant just Hare Krishna also. That's okay. But what is our Maha Mantra? Hare Krishna,
same.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Exactly.
Rama.
Means sometimes it happens like you
Okay,
break in
it's okay.
between.
You can just say Krishna, Krishna also. Okay, it doesn't matter. Yeah, just fill it with the names of the Lord. Yeah. But the thing is, once we start regularly chanting and absorb, then the regular mantra will only come naturally for us. More, rather than shortened versions. But whatever, it is of course possible to utter the name and the mind also to be elsewhere. That's also possible. But the thing is, we must make an effort, keep the mind focused on the name. So that is that is something which Acharyas very strongly emphasize for those who really want to liberate themselves. Seriously. So serious practitioners is Nirantar Loena. Engaged in, one can be engaged in one's duties, but whatever one doesn't leave any space empty. One is either doing service as a offering to the Lord, either one's material duties or direct devotional service, or one is absorbing his mind in hearing and chanting. That is a short way of perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
Very,
Hare
very.
Krishna.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, we can.
Hare
Anyone
Krishna,
has any?
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Sridhar Prabhu, you have something?
Prabhuji, one question. Prabhuji, Veda Vyas, he compiled the Vedas, right? So he wrote and split into four, or like he only split into four, which was already existing and wrote by someone else?
It's already
Ideally,
existing. Already existing. He divided into four. Vyasa, we use the word compilation. Vyasa also means to divide.
so who wrote like original that Vedas?
Nobody. It's apaurushaya. Vedas are apaurushaya. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, right, that the Vedas came from the breathing of the Supreme Person. So when material creation is created, the Vedas are manifest. The Vedas are eternal, but they become manifest. They are revealed first to Brahma. They are also present and in the ether, and sages in their deep meditations realize or tune into various sections of the Vedas, and then they have understood and assimilated those portions and taught. So there are different, slightly different descriptions. Some say that one Veda was originally known as Rig Veda. Some say, in some places it is said that the original Veda was Atharva Veda, and then four parts were made: Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva. The reason for this whole division process was it became too difficult towards the end of Kali Yuga for people to master and study everything. So then you divide. Okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. Just like we divide services. You take care of kitchen, you take care of deity worship, you take care of fundraising. So in the Vedic system, these different four parts of the Vedas also focus on certain aspects of Vedic tradition or the system of yajna. Those who are expert in Sama are singing hymns. Yajur is into the practice of how the techniques of performing the yajna. So like that, there are, and based on each of the Vedas, there are also different types of priests. There is Hota, there is Udgata, there is Brahma, there is Advaryu. Each of them has a specific role, and they are expert in their respective sections of the Vedas. So they cooperate and do it together. Now even that nobody can do. Kali Yuga is so degraded. So in Kali Yuga is Sankirtana Yajna. Kalau tad Hari Kirtanat. Krite Yadhyayato Vishnum Tetayam Rajato Makhai. Vapare Paricharyayam Kalau tad Hari Kirtanat. So Vedavyas divided the Vedas. He also wrote the Vedanta Sutra. Also the Puranas he organized into the three groups: Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, the Itihasas. And what he did was, so as that these traditions don't become lost, he taught each of these parts to different prominent disciples of his. So to one Rishi, he said, okay, you are the Rigved champion. You take Rigved and pass Rigved from you to your disciple to your disciple. Okay, you are Samved Acharya. You are Atharva Ved Acharya. You are Ramayan, Itihasas Acharya. You are Purana Acharya. Like that. So he distributed. This is all mentioned in the Bhagavatam itself. The first canto. Yeah, I think so. Some of these names, to which Rishi he gave what, is also mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So you can say he organized and divided into logical sections to make it easy to study and to pass on, so that it is not lost. He is not the author. He is the author of the Vedanta Sutra, though, yes, but not of the Vedas. The Vedas are eternal, including the Puranas.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd chapter. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhavaha yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajna brahmod bhavam vidhi. I'm not recollecting the full verse, but that in this sequence it is mentioned that Vedas are emanating. That prescribed duties is yajna, and prescribed duties come from the Vedas, and the Vedas come from the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tasma sarvagatam brahma nityam yajne pratishtitam. And that is why the Supreme Absolute Truth is always present in the acts of sacrifice. So that is why even performance of prescribed duties of worship of the Lord. Because prescribed duties come from the Vedas, and the Vedas come from the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the logic. So Vedas are eternal. This is the eternal system. Okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hari Bol. Yuntara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you. So I'll see you all next Saturday. Thank you,
Krishna
everyone.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Krishna and thank you,
Thank you
Prabhuji.
so much.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you,
Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.